you'll be allowed to speak during the general comment section at the end of the meeting. Your comments will be held to 2 minutes as per our policy. With that, we do appreciate people coming. We appreciate people being interested in education. Mr. Schimpf, do you have any revisions or corrections to the agenda tonight?
Yeah, the only addition that I have, we've got additional enrollment paperwork that came through, and so under miscellaneous, you've just got probably a chart sitting there in front of you that when it's time for miscellaneous, I just want to share additional enrollment numbers.
Very well, thank you. With that, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. The first is the August 18th regular session minute. They're in your packet. Are there questions or comments from Mr. Schimpf on those minutes? If there are none, do I have a motion? So moved. Jim Reitzman made the motion. Second. Seconded by Kim. All those in favor? 6. All those abstaining?
I'm going to abstain, yeah.
1. Brandy abstaining. Okay, we're going to move on to the August 23rd. We're going to put the minutes together from the executive session as well as a special session. Are there questions or comments about those minutes? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve them as presented? Jean has made the motion. Second. Seconded by Elise. All those in favor? 5. All those abstaining? 2.
Hey, you can, I'm sorry, on the first one, you can make that a 7-0 vote. The executive session's the one I had to call in on, so that was the one I was going to abstain on.
Okay, very well. Okay, moving on to the other 2 minutes from the September 1st special session, public input for the budget and teacher contracts, and the executive session on September 1st. Do we have a motion to approve those as presented? We're going to separate those. So on the first one, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Brandy's made the motion. Elise with the second. All those in favor?
Oh, sorry.
4. All those abstaining? 3. Okay, the September 1st executive session. Do we have a motion? Kim Cooper with the motion. Seconded by Jim Reitzman. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, moving on. Financial business. Mr. Schimpf, payroll and claims.
Yeah, if you look at the payroll and claims, you're going to see that for the most part, we're just a little bit above where we were last year at this point in time. That makes sense. We've added staffing, but we're not significantly above like we were a couple months ago when we were looking at the stipends added into here. So we should be just a little bit above that last year number. So that is appropriate. Fortunately, our funding also improved last year, so we could spend some more. Otherwise, I don't have anything to point out unless you have specific questions.
Questions for Mr. Schimpf or comments on payroll and claims? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Zach's made the motion. Seconded by Gina. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Financial reports, Mr. Schimpf.
Yeah, again, financials, if you look at page 41 at the top, you can see our education fund balance, currently $2.79 million. The operation fund is at $3.84 million at this time, and then rainy day, $871,000. Our school lunch fund, something worth pointing out right now, is $46,000 in the black, positive, so that's a good thing. I'm happy to have got that straightened out. It was a lot of hard work from our food services people. Been really working hard. Not that our other people aren't, but food services have been working hard, and they've been working hard to try to get some of those things straightened up and tidied up, and they've done a good job with that.
Very well. Questions or comments for Mr. Schimpf? If there are none, do we have a motion? Elise has made the motion. Seconded by Kim. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. ECA reports.
Yeah, you'll see the ECA balances are relatively healthy. We're thankful for the great support. You know, so many people come out and watch our student athletes and contribute to band and you name it. I mean, people are there taking care of the students, and that's what this is all about, and that's reflected in these balances.
Questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Jim Reitzman with a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Zach. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Utility report. Mike, Mr. Shemp?
Yeah, you're going to see utility report. You know, for the most part, we're holding steady, but we are seeing some decreases. I'm thankful that the LED project up at the middle school / Turkey Run Elementary is for the most part complete. Thankful that REMC was able to help us get payback. We were able to get $25,000 back toward the cost of those appliances or fixtures, which was fantastic, and we appreciate their work there, and we look forward to being better stewards of the energy and ideally saving money at the same time. So that should be reflected in these bills.
Any questions? Very well, there is no action on that. There is no requests and communications tonight. The personnel report, we have a couple of resignations. Mr. Shemp?
Yeah, I would recommend that the board approve resignations for Angie Tidwell, Hannah Ramey, Shika Faulkner, and Patty Mathis.
Are there any questions or comments about those? If not, do we have a motion? Gina has made a motion.
Second. Second.
Seconded by Zach. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, recommendation to approve staff. Mr. Shemp?
Yeah, I want to recommend Shauna Crowder as a functional room assistant, Mary Baker as a move from temp to part-time 4-hour school year custodian at Turkey Run Elementary. That would be retro pay back to 8/9/21. She's been in the position all that time. She started as a temp. We now want to make her the 4-hour person. And then Noble Johnson as a student worker. So I'd recommend all of those approvals for staffing.
Very well. Are there questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion? Kim's made the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Brandy. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, ECA assignments, Mr. Shemp.
Yeah, it seems like we've always got a few ECA assignments to tidy up here, but middle school supervisors, I would like to recommend the board approve Ashley McCamus, Shane Vandiver, and Deanna Householder. And at the high school, for NHS, National Honor Society, would like to recommend the board approve a split between Jane McMullen and Cheryl McDaniel for that position.
Very well. Are there any questions or comments about those ECA assignments? If not, do I have a motion? Jim Reitzman has made the motion. Seconded by Gina. All those in favor? 6. All those abstaining? 1. Okay, recommendation to approve transfers.
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to recommend that Megan Bridge be moved from Young Fives to the Title I position at Turkey Run Elementary.
Very well. Are there questions or comments? If there are none, do we have a motion? Elise Pratt has made the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Kim Cooper. All those in favor? 5. All those opposed? 2. Okay, there is no old business tonight. Moving on to new business, we have some donations. I like to read these because we do get a lot of them, and they are very helpful, and we appreciate them. $50 from Otterburn United Methodist Church, $50 from Mount Hermon Bible Church, $20 from Richard Keller, $200 from Auxiliary VFW Post 1752, $493 from Paul Taylor, Post 1752, $32.76 from Coke Give, $500 from Future X, $230 from the Booster, Park Heritage Boosters, $175 twice from the NCP Board, $100 from Thomas and Sheila Rohr, $480 from Nicholas Braun, $30 from Raccoon Creek Transport Logging, LLC, $50 from Nancy Swaim, and $9,000 from the Rocks Athletic Alumni, and $200 from the Fountain Trust. So again, we get a lot of donations. We really appreciate them. They help us out. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Brandy's made the motion. Seconded by Kim. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, Mr. Ship, recommendation to approve student transfers.
Yeah, we still have paperwork trickling in, as I said, in the miscellaneous side. We'll come back to this, but we see the transfers in, but we don't always get to see the transfers out necessarily until it shows up on Harmony and our database. Currently, our numbers look like we're around 1180 as a corporation, which is up around 30 students, which is a good thing and greatly appreciated. We're glad so many people trust us to send their kids here. But in this list here, you've got students coming to us from Southmont, Southeast Fountain, North Vermillion, Southwest Park, Clay, Monroe. We have some kids who recently have been from out of state, and really as much as anything, this is a paperwork piece where we have to comply and make sure that we get a board meeting where these students are approved. And so I think it's great to see. Obviously, we want to keep those numbers up. Do you have any questions about these numbers as represented?
If there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve? Gina has made the motion, seconded by Jim. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, item C, recommendation to approve the 2022 school budget, capital projects budget, and bus replacement as advertised. Mr.
Yeah,
Shemp?
recommend that the board approve the previously presented 2022 school budget, capital projects and bus as advertised. On August 18th, permission to advertise was requested. September 1st, a public hearing for comment was held, and I'm now asking for the formal approval of the budget. The required forms will be updated in Gateway. Tomorrow is my plan, if they're approved. Within 5 days is the minimum, but the goal is tomorrow. So I'd recommend that you approve that budget as previously presented.
Very well. Are there any questions or comments by board members? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Kim has made the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Elise. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, resolution to reduce budget.
Okay, because of the way that we have to go about requesting funds from the state of Indiana, it's important for us to pass a resolution to reduce the budget. We tend to ask high because if we don't ask high, we won't get near what our requirement is. And so in the event that we are actually granted that high number, we need to have the opportunity to be able to reduce it. And so that's what this resolution does. In effect, it keeps us from, while we may ask for 15 cents more than they're going to give us, if for some reason the state decided to all of a sudden up tax rates by 15 cents, we want the opportunity to bring those back down. And so that's in effect what this presents opportunity to do. And so I would recommend that the board approve this resolution to reduce the budget.
Very well, this is something we do every year, like you said, so do we have a motion to approve? Gina has made the motion. Jim Reisman with the second. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, recommendation to approve COVID days from the sick bank. Go ahead, Mr. Shemp.
Yeah, and this would be for part-time and full-time employees. And this would also expire June 30th of 2022. So I want to put an expiration date on this, but if the board approves it, I need an expiration date on there. But essentially, I would like to ask the board to approve that COVID days could be used from the sick bank. Now, we have 2 sick banks currently. We have one for our non-certified staff and one for our certified staff. People have donated days to these banks. And since there are no federal mandated COVID days at this point, and the vast majority of corporations are not doing that, we do recognize that this is sometimes a hardship. And so we would like to have, or I'd like to have some sort of opportunity to have flexibility in these days, because we do have some people who have already used up all of their days for this year because they were sick and out or had family members sick and out, and this would give them opportunity to get some of those days back. Essentially, I'd like for non-certified staff to be able to get a maximum of 5 days from the sick bank, and certified staff to be able to get 10 days maximum. Hospitalizations obviously wouldn't be included in those maximums if for some reason, God forbid, somebody's in the hospital. But non-certified would get 5 days, certified would get 10 days. This would go through my office just as it has previously. It wouldn't be something that would have to be approved by the entire board. If the association wanted to give input, they're welcome to come and talk with me about that. But my hope would be to be able to give a little bit of flexibility here from days that already exist in a sick bank.
So are there questions or comments for Mr. Schimpf?
So these are days that are already donated by the
Correct.
staff.
Correct.
Is there any flexibility, like if somebody has a lot and they want to donate more to help, like how is that? How are we doing that?
They are donated or can futurely,
Yeah, we
future
could
be
open it up
donated.
to donation, I guess.
Okay, that's my
yeah,
question, because if
yeah.
somebody, if we get into some
think that's-
issues, if somebody's interested, would we allow them to do that? So,
Do
okay.
I don't know that you would want to cap it, but you don't want people to give away all their days and then
Right.
need them, but
Right.
that's a good point.
Right.
It's a good idea. I can see opening that up and send it out to see if anybody wants to donate.
Just like-
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve this as presented?
So moved.
Brandy with the motion. Lise with the second. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, recommendation to update COVID policy. Mr. Schimpf?
Yeah, at the last, the 23rd meeting, on the 23rd of August, we had, not the last meeting, but on the August 23rd, we had a meeting. We updated our COVID policies, and we've said that we'll continue to update those as we think is appropriate. A change that I would like to see us make in our COVID policy would be to recognize that anyone living in the household with someone who is a positive case, I think those individuals need to quarantine, because we have seen from the data that we have available to us that there is some contact tracing that is significant when it comes from the same household. And so we're seeing people who are close contacts turn up positive if they live with somebody in the house. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to send your son or daughter to school if you and your spouse are both positive cases at that time. It also cuts down potentially on the amount of time that kids would be out of school as a whole, because by recognizing that everybody needs to be home at that point, you don't get the same fragmented, Johnny's out for 7 days, and then 5 days later, his sister gets sick, and it just limits some of that, and I think it makes it for a positive. So essentially, the change I'm looking at would be to say that parents or guardians are responsible for notifying the school of any positive cases in their household, which we already said. And if a positive case exists within the household, students shall quarantine as directed by the school nurse or health department. Upon return, students should wear face covering until directed otherwise. And this is really consistent with a number of plans. The other options that I don't know if you want to discuss that part before I go any further or not. The other options I think that exist out there are a million, right? A million options of how to handle COVID policy. And we've said for some time there's no way to mitigate for every possible potential infection. Parents have recognized that forever. There's a certain threat, if you will, or certain fear of sending your kid out in the world anytime they go out and they get in the car and they drive to work or whatever else. So we know that we can't mitigate for all harms, but tightening this up a little bit, I think, is an improvement. to the policy that we previously put out there. The other angle I was going to talk about is, the governor recently did say if a school was to mandate masks and all students wore masks at all times, we could absolutely do away with quarantines. If that's something you want to discuss further, there are schools that are doing that. That's happening in some places. It is interesting, I think, that somehow you're allowed to not quarantine if everybody has a mask on, but that's, that's item of discussion for the board, I guess.
Okay. So our recommendation is to stay with our original policy, adding that if it's a household member is positive, then it's up to the school nurse / health department whether all people in the household need to quarantine from school, correct?
Correct.
Are there questions or comments on that?
I'm going to comment on the policy. The policy that we put in place the last time, I know this is such a difficult topic, but we are required by Indiana to do some type of quarantine. There is some flexibility in that. Our current policy and the one that's set forth does not follow that Indiana code. And so for me, I would not be able to support something that is actually in direct violation of the law.
Thank you, Brandy. At this time, we don't take this lightly. It's always been a big thing for us to keep kids in school. That's where we were. That's why we went to this policy. We've evaluated our numbers. Our numbers have actually gone down since we've implemented this policy, which we feel is a good thing. And I think that's just where we're at. We're gonna see where it, closely monitor the numbers. If things happen, we have to change things, but at this time, I believe this is where we're at. So I'll entertain a motion unless anybody else has anything to say, I'll entertain a motion.
It probably is worth noting what the numbers are right now. We have 38 students that are out for quarantine right now, and we have 19 positive cases. Since the start of the year, we've had 95 total cases out of again, we've got about 1,180 students right now.
Okay, do we have a motion? Kim has made the motion. Second by Elise. All those in favor? 6. All those opposed? Okay, moving on, recommendation to approve evaluation plans.
Yeah, each year we have to, I recommend an approval of evaluation plans for different staff members. This has taken up a large number in your packet, almost 100 pages worth of your packet is evaluation paperwork. The only main differences here from last year are that last year it still had a lot of the school growth information in there that was tied to testing that the state has said we don't have to have in there any longer. It's also taken away the SLOs for teachers, which I would have been so thankful when I was a teacher to have had that piece taken away because it could be so subjective. So I was glad to see that go. Those pieces were taken out. On the actual superintendent's evaluation, there are 5 questions that were pulled out that we can talk more about later on, but because of pulling out the school-wide data, made it really challenging to get the numbers to work right. So we can talk more about that when you're ready to do my evaluation, and I'm happy to do that whenever you want to do so. But otherwise, I'd recommend that the board approve these as presented, and those are the changes that have been made.
Very well. Are there questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Gene with the motion?
Second.
Zach with the second. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, recommendation of fundraisers.
Yeah, we've got a number of fundraisers here. The Park Heritage High School would like to be able to park cars over at Billy Creek Village, and I think Brandy had a hand in having some discussion there with various groups. I've listed multiple ECA funds because this is a day-long, multi-day-long activity of parking
Multi-day,
cars.
so yeah, each of the county schools will have 3 days to park, and it'll be a 50-50 split. We're super excited to have them and allow them to participate in something that's very important to our county.
Should be a great fundraiser for us, too. And it's
yeah.
great the kids get to take part in that. Obviously, parents are going to have to sign off on that with moving vehicles. But that's one of the fundraisers here. The Park Heritage High School Student Council would like to sell homecoming T-shirts. The Turkey Run Elementary Fine Arts would like to sell Beef House rolls. Park Heritage High School Student Council would like to do a foam party, which I had to look at what that one's all about. It's some sort of party where they're spraying each other with foam. Mrs. Studebaker, I think, is here. I don't know if she wants to talk about that or not, but it looked interesting. So Park Heritage High School Student Council and Work-Based Learning, as well as Girls Tenants, would like to do Wix pies or sell Wix pies. They'd like to have an etiquette banquet, add to their uniforms, equipment, and then also homecoming activities yet again. And then finally, Park Heritage Middle School Art would like to sell some student artwork in order to purchase additional art supplies. I thought this was creative. I know it's a little bit outside the norm of having individual teacher raise funds. There's not an art club per se at the middle school, but I thought this was a creative way to really support kids and give them an outlet to sell off some of their artwork. So these are the recommendations for fundraisers right now.
Very well. Are there any questions or comments on the fundraisers? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve? Jim Reitzman has made the motion. Seconded by Gina Sunderman. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Recommendation to approve updated language to non-certified handbook.
Yeah, I just need to have some clarification. I had discussed this at a meeting, and I didn't end up putting the language in the handbook very well. I didn't feel like, so I wanted to go back and make sure that it was appropriate. Within the non-certified handbook, on page 8, section F, under ECA drivers, it should read, excuse me, yellow card carrying drivers who have been approved by the corporation with all appropriate licensing credentials will be employed as needed to drive students for extracurricular activities such as, but not limited to, field trips and athletic contests. These drivers will be paid a rate of $40 per trip for up to 3 hours. If the trip goes beyond 3 hours, drivers will be paid $12 an hour for each additional hour, beginning with the 4th hour. As an additional change to that same non-certified handbook on page 20, the bus driver aid pay should have been raised to $12 an hour. So I had two things that needed to be buttoned up there. That individual on occasion does drive that bus for us, and so the discrepancy between the pay of the driver and the pay of the aide was pretty wide. And so they actually serve in a driver capacity for us on occasion on an activity bus for special education students. Do you have any questions on that? I just wanted to tighten it up. It wasn't as tight as I wanted it to be when it came to what someone would make if they drove a team to an athletic contest or a field trip.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Schimpf on that? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Brandy has made the motion.
Second.
Second by Zach. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Moving on, testing policy.
Each year, we also have to get approval for a school testing policy. Rebecca Corey put this together, put a great deal of work into this, just like she does so many things. We have so many people who put so much time and effort into this school, and so appreciated. But the testing policy as presented, I would recommend that the board approve it. It's a school-wide testing policy. It's going to address your I-STEPs and your I-LEARNs and those requirements as far as what security is involved with testing for standardized testing within the corporation.
All right, are there any questions or comments on the testing policy? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Brandy has made the motion.
Second.
Seconded by Kim. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Okay, moving on, miscellaneous business.
Yeah, just that one piece of miscellaneous. We had 21 additional students in grades K through 5, as well as 10th grade, that have transferred into the school corporation. Now, even if you were a student that went to school here last year, if you were not within the district, you still had to fill these out. So again, these numbers are really misleading when it comes to how many are coming in or out, but we still have to approve it. So I'd ask that you would approve these students as well.
Very well, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Brandy with a motion. Second. Second by Elise. All those in favor? 7-0 vote. Moving on, superintendent's report.
Yeah, we received notification that Faith Bible Church is petitioning, or maybe just did this evening, I want to say. Gary might be able to tell us. I think he was at that meeting tonight. I'm not sure if it ended up going there or not, but Faith Bible Church was petitioning the Board of Zoning to move from R1 to R3, which is a multifamily, and that petition is next to the land at Gideon, that it borders right up to our land. And so, they had to notify the corporation as an owner of the property that it butts up to it. My understanding was that meeting happened at 4 today. Do you know, Gary, did it happen to?
I came to the other meeting before
Okay,
they
fair enough.
decided that.
Fair enough, right. I didn't see any issue with this necessarily. As much as anything, I'm informing the board, and if for some reason we had issue, we'd mentioned it at some point, but I just wanted to give you a couple details. The next item on my report would be that the food pantry is supposed to begin tomorrow at the former Turkey Run Administration Building from 4 to 6. There will be opportunity to pick up food if you want to do so, or if you need to do so. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to visiting, kind of want to see how it goes, and hopefully it's a real positive for the community. COVID update, I'd already updated you on the numbers, I believe, on COVID, so I don't know if we need to go much further with that at this time. The meeting I know Gary was at earlier, though, do you want to talk a little bit about that large animal enclosure?
The vet tech program.
Sure.
We filed a petition for a variance with the town of Rockville so that the vet tech program can bring large animals on site for a day. At present, they're busing the kids, they're taking the kids out in the country. So it'll be a much more efficient for the program to do this. There were no complaints from anyone in town. Letters were sent from the school corporation to everyone who lives within 500 feet of the school corporation grounds. There'll be a fence installed and a small shelter if it's hot or if it's raining to have the animals in, but the plan is that they won't be there any longer than a day. And it was unanimous by the Planning Commission.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's going to save time, to drive out for the day and go somewhere off-site. It's going to really save time for students to be able to have some hands-on activities with large animals. I think it's fantastic. We've been working at this for a while, and I'm glad to finally see it making progress again. So that's really all that I have for superintendent's report at this point.
Any questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Okay, moving on, we will do comments from the public here. 1 second while I get the clipboard.
Got it.
Okay, at this time, nobody has signed up to talk. So with that, we will move on. Our next public meeting is October 20th. And with that, is there another sign-up sheet, Karen? Okay, yes, somebody would like to have a comment?
You may have to push that button. I'm sorry, it's on the phone.
have heard several responses to this, such as, this was a misunderstanding, this was not the intent, the books look to be good kids' books, but were never reviewed, this was a random wish list, which I think would have been 2021. We all know how Amazon works, and there's no wish list without selecting the items that you specifically desire. These statements are what parents are being misinformed with, which is why I'm going to share with you a conversation that took place between my wife and the teacher at the very beginning once the books were noticed. If you're wondering why I'm willing to share this, the answer is simple. It has been told to us that the emails sent back and forth, which we thought were being held confidentially, were actually distributed by faculty and people outside of the school corporation without our consent, which wouldn't matter in this situation anyways, but it's why I'm willing to share tonight. My wife sent this email because she was concerned when she found the books on the wish list. It says, I was looking on the Amazon teacher wish list last week to purchase something for your classroom, and I was reading through the book that was the one called Prince in the Night. I was a little taken aback by this and wanted to talk with you about it to see if this is a subject matter that will be discussed sometime during the school year. If so, I just want to make sure my husband and I are having these conversations with him before he comes to school, as we are a Christian family and have strong beliefs regarding this issue. We want him to be kind and considerate towards everyone, but also know that God says what God says in the Bible. More than anything, we just want to be prepared as parents to talk about these things with him so he can ask us questions he may have. I appreciate your time and all you do for our kids. The response was 2 days later, which that response was sent on Saturday. The response we received from that says, we try to read books from several different genres, nonfiction, fiction, fantasy, poetry, biographies, etc. It's important for kids to be exposed to various kinds of texts, as each kind is a vulnerable learning tool. For instance, while reading fantasy books, we take the opportunity to discuss real make-believe. If you're asking if I read books that include diverse characters such as people who are from the LGBTQ+ community, then yes, I do. It is important to me that my classroom is reflective of the people in our building and community. Having books that feature LGBTQ+ characters is not harmful. In fact, it is statistically proven that when LGBTQ+ youth are shown acceptance and are given a safe space at school, they're less likely to die by suicide. Prince in the Night was published to accelerate LGBTQ+ inclusivity and acceptance. Because I am also a Christian, I believe in acceptance and showing love to our neighbors. It is never my place to judge or condemn another. I'm hoping to teach my students to show love and respect for others, as Jesus himself has told us to do. It is also my hope that Griffin, that's my son, will come to you and ask questions about lots of stuff we're learning in school. In addition to learning about letters, font number shapes, etc., we will learn about discrimination, racism, disability, both seen and unseen, and other topics in an age-appropriate way. I'm not saying I don't agree with all that, because there is some good, but when you want to talk to my 5-year-old, teach him or put impressions on him that it's okay when it's not, that's where I have an issue. I'm not sure what everybody here thinks of that, but I know what it tells me. That this was not a mistake, the intent was there was a thought process behind it, and the curriculum was built to cast an impression on our kids around the approval of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning plus, as this was clearly stated in this email chain from the teacher multiple times. So, my question. We know that some action has been taking place, or have taken place, but are there more to come? How are you going to prevent this from happening again? And what is the time frame? We transferred Griffin from schools. He is still in the New Rapids Corporation. But I want to be confident and comfortable where he's going to be at when it's going to be taught.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Mike, do you want to add any comments to his?
You know, a lot of it is that when it comes to this situation, we have dealt with it according to state and federal laws. We are doing what we can do legally. When it comes to daily interaction with students and parents and teachers, there needs to be transparency. A teacher ought to be able to know what's going, or a parent ought to be able to know what's going on in a teacher's classroom. They should feel welcome there. That was hard for us last year with COVID when we had to really shut down the doors and not allow so many people in. We want to be able to have parent input. There is a process if there are materials that a parent may deem as questionable. There's a process you can go through. You can have a meeting. We've got, it's policy that already exists. I actually have copies of it. If you want to see a copy of that, I have some of those. That's already policy. Beyond that, when it comes to time frame, on the personnel side, we're dealing with it, again, as we deem appropriate and within our legal bounds. When it comes to safeguards, I think that's where transparency comes in. I want to know what was going on in my kids' classrooms when they were in elementary school, high school.
So I'm going to stop you. You think we should have the right?
No, he's got the floor. He talks. If you want to talk in a second, you can. Don't interrupt his comments. Go.
No, I was just saying, I think you got to have open door. You've got to have open communication, and go right ahead.
You think that we have the right to know what's going on with our kids in the classroom?
Absolutely.
How come the multiple times we've asked who's going to be teaching our kids? We told our kids, we called Friday, said who are we releasing custody to our child?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry if you're not done.
You guys said you're not. I think we discussed it.
Right. And that's absolutely, you're right. So you no longer have a student in our corporation, is that correct? Sure. Sure. Okay, I don't know that you were not allowed, but I guess essentially we have to have due process that we go through, and so we can't circumvent due process. And so that's frustrating, and I get that. But people have rights that we have to allow them to be able to exercise along the way. And had your student shown up to school, I would like to think there would have been a conversation of who would have been in their classroom during those days until due process had culminated and finished up, and we got to this point here today.
All your board members know about my email. How many of the classes did I get? Anyway.
And I think as a parent, that's your absolute right, and I absolutely get that.
Well, there's certain things, when it comes down, when things turn into a personnel issue, that's what Mike's saying, we can't discuss it. And we can't discuss that. Now, could we have told you who your teacher was going to, the teacher was going to be that day? And yes, but until this got resolved and the personnel ended, then we can be able to tell you who the teacher is going to be going forward. But until then, it was still pending. And so anything we would have told you would have been, a pending response that we weren't for sure until you go through the process. And we have to be careful of, teachers, everybody, it's an employee, they have rights, and we have to be respectful of those. And it's really against the law for us to comment on the past situation now on that involved the personnel, because we just really can't. What we can do is comment on going forward, and we put the policy out that was listed what was legal and what it wasn't, and said that we are not going to be teaching those kids this. We put that out 3 weeks ago. We put it out because we meant it. That's our stance on that. It's not right. That's parents' jobs to be teaching those things to those young kids. There is a process when you get older to teach those things to kids, and that involves the parents being informed. Now, is everything perfect? And that's where we like to have teachers and parents involved with each other, so parents are up to date with what their kids are being taught, because teachers aren't perfect. And there may be things that come up on a variety of different issues that parents don't like. But that's where parents being involved can help work with the teachers to manage that, to make sure what is yours at home, we try to keep what is yours at home, and what's at school, we teach what needs to be taught in school. Now, like I said, are we perfect? No. But, you know, I'll say this, and it's a bigger response. The stuff I've seen on Park County Chatter and all this stuff that I've seen on this widespread smearing of a lot of the good teachers that are in a lot of those buildings is not right. That school, that Turkey Run Elementary School was a 4-star school just a few years ago. There are great teachers that are in that building. There are great administrators that are in that building. They have done wonders for kids far more than I have, and I would venture to say most everybody has. Are they perfect? No. Are there things that they've done wrong? I'm sure there is. But it's not fair to, in a week and a half or in 3 or 4 days, to come up with an opinion that those people are, you know, somehow indoctrinating kids on a widespread basis, because it's just not the case. Those teachers, those administrators, they're part of our community. This board is a part of our community. You know, look around. I mean, we all carry very similar values with that, and I think that, I don't know if it's a bigger political climate and whatnot, but it seems like everybody's just so, and I know the COVID thing and everything is pretty tense, but it seems like everybody's so quick to judge. You know, I'm a Christian too. You know, there's a New Testament too. You know, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, because there are people that have done a great job here, and I appreciate it. My kids have all went through Turkey Run Elementary. I know other people's kids have went through Turkey Run Elementary. Most everybody's kids have went through our school system and support our school system. So I just, please, we put the policy out, we mean it. We're going to follow it. We ask your help to help us follow it.
I believe that this is know at a personal level what the parents frankly, we're not the ones that made it into this solely.
I didn't follow your comment.
I said, we tried to help, we tried to do this at a personal level, not in the board meeting, but that's where you guys helped.
Like I said, we weren't perfect and we weren't prepared in any way to discuss that at the last meeting. It came on us pretty fast. So, are there any other comments from the public out there? Maybe that was more than anybody wanted to hear. Yes.
I have a question. Is Megan Bridge going to be monitored by any employees other than the principal at her school?
We're not going to get into that.
That she bills back her teachers whether they are right or wrong. How are we as parents supposed to trust that Megan is going to be held to those higher, how are we supposed to know that she's going to follow the rules? How are we supposed to trust that when all of our trust is gone? With the most vulnerable class in the school now. Kids in the Title I class are literally the most vulnerable in the school. What is your answer?
My answer is part of that we can't discuss because it's a personnel issue. And things that are in there we can't discuss. Furthermore, I could say she's going to be monitored under the same monitors of all the other teachers are. So that's all I can say on that comment. I mean, I just can't go into that. I'm sorry.
Got all everything I want to add. When you mentioned that chatter about social media, I can't tell other people what to say, and I can't control that. So I don't, for anybody here that thinks that if anybody thinks that I've been on that, I've not looked at it, don't been on it. It honestly makes me sick. I'm full of Mr. Shiv that myself. Like, I cannot stand wrong like that. You know, I don't want to see vengeance. I don't want to see probably can't tell us all that right now. And I'm not trying to make examples, but that's simply what I'm at.
All I can tell you is from top to bottom, from the school board down to the administrators, down to the classroom, everybody's aware of this. Everybody's aware of people's discomfort of the situation, and we're going to work on it. And I can't tell you anymore, other than, it's the trust of the people in the community. It's the trust of those teachers. I encourage you to work with those teachers. I encourage you to ask questions of those teachers. And they have to earn your trust back all the way from there, all the way up. And that's just the way it is. I get it. If you don't trust your teacher, then it's hard to be there. But I guess that's what I'm asking, is that we start there. Any other board members want to make a comment?
Yeah, if we didn't think the teacher was going to be trustworthy, we wouldn't have them in the classroom. I mean, we have total faith in the teachers, the administrators, and it's our job to make sure we get the best people in there. There were mistakes made. We have done our best to correct the mistakes. It's happened. We're moving forward. We looked at the policy again. Everybody is on board. Everybody is doing the best we can. Trust, teachers, administrators, the board. We're going to have to earn your trust again. We just can't snap a finger and say, trust us. It's going to take time. We have to do it by actions. Just give everyone a chance to make it better. Please.
Yes, Phil.
So I want to agree with you first off that Richmond Elementary has been a fantastic elementary school. Still is. There's a lot of good teachers that have been dragged through the mud over this as well. Now, I do have one question for you. Cole said that one of his messages that his wife sent to the teacher was spread out amongst a group of friends. Now, I want to know what the protocol is and how you would look into something like that, or how you did look into that. Did you find out that was true? Because I do know that is true.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through how to not make this absolute personnel point. But I guess what I would tell you in general terms, what I've tried to do throughout this whole process is listen to every single person I possibly could along the way. I've tracked down what I could find as far as evidence, one way or the other, just like a communication between a parent and an email or somewhere else. I've tried to track those things down. And if I was to come across something that was so absolutely egregious that it required a significant change in staffing, then I would have to deal with that. And I don't know how I can answer that more generally without still trying to give you some sort of answer. It's probably not very satisfying, I guess. I'm sorry for that. But I think it's the best answer I can give you right now.
Well, I just want to know too, is I get messages through Class Dojo, email, whatever. How do I know that those aren't being spread somewhere else? And what happens if they are? I mean, what is the protocol for that?
Yeah, I think it comes back to trust again, just like we've said. I mean, trust it's a two-way street, right? I mean, it's not a one-way street. I mean, it's something we're going to have to ask for repeatedly to be able to get back. If there are messages between parents and teachers, they're being shared outside of that group, that's a problem. That's not okay, right? That's something that we would discuss with teachers early in the year. That should be a conversation that principals have with teachers that say, hey, remember confidentiality, confidentiality, confidentiality.
So they are supposed to be confidential, correct?
Correct.
So if you find out that they sent those messages out, what's your action right after that?
Well, if I had proof that a teacher was sharing confidential information, I would have to go through a due process with that individual and due process looks a little bit different for everybody, but you go through, you go through and you have again, you search it all out, you have the conversations, you meet with people. And if you're sharing confidential information, I mean, there's got to be a repercussion for that, right? And there's a consequence of some sort. That's why you'll see a lot of teachers will have that disclaimer on the bottom of their email, and you won't see it on Classroom Dojo, but you're going to see it on their email that says, this is confidential, meant for only whomever, the sender, the receiver, direct receiver of this message, and is protected by all rights, yada, yada. It's legal speak right at the bottom of many emails. So your question is, I think, if somebody is sharing confidential information with members of the public, is there a consequence for that? Yes, there'd be a consequence for that.
So is it against the law to share that?
I guess that kind of depends if it reveals private information, right? And that's why those, especially special ed teachers, are the best at putting it on there, and probably all teachers should have that disclaimer on there at the bottom of their email.
So how far can you go to get those messages if you really want to?
How far could I go? I mean, I can ask for it. I can have, people could bring that to me if they wanted to, if such a thing existed. If you had an issue between you and your teacher that you're talking about your kid and you say, hey, this is private conversation, you bring it in and look at this, they just posted all over Facebook what I said to them, then that's a problem. That's a problem. I don't think I'm giving you the answer you're looking for, I'm sorry, but
There's no good way, given the circumstances, for us to give you any type of direct answer on a personnel. He's trying to do the best he can. We don't share, teachers shouldn't be sharing confidential information.
Absolutely not.
Period, of any type. And if any of that stuff in any instance is known about or brought to us, it's a problem. And like you said, he would go through the steps.
And I guess I would also follow up, there is all sorts of hearsay, and I think that's probably where Scott was going with some of the Park County chatter business. Have I been told things in any number of situations? Let's not talk about tonight, but any number of situations, have I had people bring me information that never showed up on my desk? Yes, I have. Throughout the course of my career as an administrator, had a number of times where people made accusations that I never got the actual proof of.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
All right, are there any other comments? Very well. Comments for the public is closed. Again, the next meeting is October 20th. It will be here. Is that where we're having? That's our next regular meeting.
You want to go back to the middle school?
If there's nothing else, we adjourn. Appreciate you all coming.
We had this month, and Mark picked up a civil crew, we canceled because they were away. I don't know.